Hey guys, great news. This notes should only take one page. Whoop whoop. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, today we're going to talk about Lesson 5-2, Absolute Value. This is going to tie in nicely with our lesson from yesterday on, let's see, 1, 8, 19, on integers and numbers that are right and left of the zero. Okay, so let's give a definition to absolute value. So, absolute value. All this talks about is the distance a value is from zero. If you think about it, if I'm going to use a measuring tape to measure anything, I never see negative numbers. So distance is going to be measured is either 0, a positive value, or a 0 value. So no negatives, okay? So basically all absolute value is saying how far are you from 0, okay? Now, we have, when it comes to numbers and we look at signs, people, again, somehow think that if a number has a negative sign that there's something wrong with that number. Again, all that negative sign means is a direction from 0. It's saying it's to the left of 0, whereas the positive numbers are to the right of 0. Okay, so all a positive value means is that it's to the right of 0. And all a negative value means is to the left of 0. So when I'm talking about absolute, it's just saying, well, how far to the right or how far to the left? That's all it wants to know is how many places is it from 0, okay? So again, when it comes to integers, the sign just means its location from 0. So let me write that down. So with integers, signs mean what direction from 0 a number is. Okay? All right, now, absolute value actually has a symbol. So I'm going to go back up to absolute value and we'll add it in there. And I'm going to put a variable in it just to hold the place. So this is the absolute value symbol, is those two parallel lines. That's your absolute value symbol. So if you just have a number, it's not an absolute value unless you see those symbols, okay? So let's go through a little bit of a practice here. Yeah, let's do a different color. Okay. So if we have the absolute value of -5, so again, I'll read that. Absolute value of -5. Okay? What that's actually saying for us is how far from 0. So if we have a number line, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, just for the fun of it. And we've got negative 5 here. The question for absolute value is how far is the negative 5 from the 0? That's all that means. And we can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a terrible 5. That looks like an S, doesn't it? 5 places from 0. So we can conclude that the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. It's absolutely 5 away from 0. Okay? So let's do a couple quickies. This is so easy. That's why when you do your practice on, see, tomorrow's Tuesday. So when you do your practice on Wednesday, looks like you're going to have a lot of homework problems, but they're going to be as simple as what we see here. Question is going to ask us to evaluate. And if you remember, inside of the word evaluate is almost the full word value. So let's just say find the value, or what is something worth. So let's do that problem again. We have the absolute value of negative 5. Well, how far is negative 5 from 0? And the answer is, it's 5 away. Done. So we start with the original problem and then write out our answer. Well, what's the absolute value of negative 7? How far from 0 is negative 7? That's easy. 7 spots. And then what's the absolute value of 3? How far is 3 from 0? 1, 2, 3. 3. That was easy. And that's what we do with absolute value. All right, we can actually do math with absolute value too. Let me show you what I'm talking about. What if I had the absolute value of 7 and I wanted to subtract from it the absolute value of negative 6? Okay, so what we're going to do is do the absolute value first, because it's kind of like Superman's force field. You can't do anything while those symbols are there. So we're going to take the absolute value of each of those, and that's going to give me absolute value of 7 is 7. It's 7 away from 0. Absolute value of negative 6 is 6. It's 6 away from 0. And then we just give an answer. And that equals 0. 0. 7 take away 6 is 1. Bedtime. Okay. In fact, let's make that the special word of the day. Bedtime. Write that at the top of your notes. Let's do, I'm going to take those same numbers, but instead of having them be in 2 separate absolute values, I'm going to put them together in 1. So if I have math going on inside of the absolute value, it's like a grouping symbol. So I have to do that math first. So inside the absolute value, 7 take away 6 is 1. Then I take the absolute value of 1, and 1 is actually 1 away from 0. And there's your answer. Okay? So let's just kind of recap in words what we did. On numbers 4 and 5, we're going to find the absolute value. First. Of each number. That's this guy. We're looking at number 4. And then we're going to do the math. So I couldn't do any math until I had 7 take away 6. So how does it differ for this guy over here, number 5? I did the math first. Why? Because they're inside the absolute value. And then once I have down to one number, I'm going to take the absolute value. So depending on what your problem looks like is going to dictate whether we do the math first, then do the absolute value, or do the absolute value and then do the math. Okay? I am going to go to my next screen. You should still be on the same page. And let's talk about a word from notes from yesterday, and that's the word opposites. And if you remember our little number line, we talked about 2 and -2 being opposites. And the reason is they are numbers the same distance from 0, so if you remember, -2 was 2 to the left of 0, and 2 was 2 to the right from 0. But, here comes the explanation, on opposite sides, that's where the word opposites comes from, of 0. Okay, so we'll do a couple practice problems of those. Oops, sorry, I forgot the word EX for example. Find the opposite of each. So again, we're going to start with the original problem, -7. Now this is where it gets a little weird. I can't write equals because I can't say -7 is equal to +7. So I'm going to use an arrow and then write the answer. So the opposite of a -7 is a +7. What's the opposite of 4? Well, it would be on the other side of 0, so it would be -4. Okay? We're going to do one word problem, so sorry to make you write. We have a seagull. Oops, that's supposed to say is flying 25 feet above sea level. Joe is diving, geez, really time for me to go to bed, 15 feet below sea level. What is the distance between Joe and the seagull? So sometimes what I like to do is to draw a picture. And I know this is what the sea looks like. And we've got, and please remember I'm not an artist. I don't know what, that's a seagull. Seagull. And I know he is in the air because it says he's flying above sea level. So this is going to be 25 feet. The seagull to the water. And then we've got Joe. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Joe. He's having fun, his arms are in the air, and he's got a smile on his face. Okay, now, Joe, according to here, said that he is below sea level, so that's why I knew to draw him there, and he's 15 feet below sea level. So we would say the seagull is 25 feet above, and I want to know absolutely how far above that is, so I'm just going to do absolute value. And if I want to know the distance between them, I would have to add them together. And then to represent below sea level, I would say -15, okay? So what we get for absolute value 25, it's just 25 away from the 0, which is sea level. and the absolute value of negative 15, it's just 15 away from the level of the sea. And then we just add them together, and we get the answer of 40. So we would say is the distance between Joe and the seagull is 40 feet. So again, recommend you draw a picture. Pay attention to the words that mean positive versus negative. Deal with absolute values because we're not going to deal with the negative number. We're going to just deal with distances, which can only be positive or 0. And there you go. We'll have fun working on this the next day in class. All right, good luck.